Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening in the world today, in the stars today, up above us today. Whoops, got to turn off my phone or we'll keep hearing all the sounds. I hope everybody's having a good morning so far. I got to tell you, I have something new in my cuppa today, and it is called Organo Coffee, for lack of a better name. I don't remember the rest of the name of it, but Organo Coffee. So it is made with organic fair trade coffee, but also with ingredients like the reishi mushroom added to it for sustained energy and for more healthy coffee experience without all the jittery jitters that coffee gives me. Now, I don't get the jitters from coffee, but I do feel it in my digestive system. So today it sounded like a good choice to make, considering the moon has turned into the sign of Virgo now, and Virgo rules our digestive system. But more than just the digestion, it is the whole of the health of our physical body, as well as the assimilation of all it is that we are taking in through our bodies, through our pores of our skin, through our minds, through our hearts, through our solar plexus, and then how it gets assimilated into the body, into our beingness, into our soul, into our spirit. So it is kind of an interesting change to make on the day that the moon moves there. And then I also have the moon in Virgo regularly, so by birth. So I have that already going for me. Now, today is going to be a really interesting day, and it's not just today. I think this energy is going to be with us for about the rest of the week, as well as maybe even further on, as today we have Mercury, the planet of communication, and the mind turning from direct into retrograde, kind of stationing at the moment, right? Slowed down to the point it seems from our position here on Earth that it isn't moving at all. So it's sort of stationary. And then later this afternoon, evening, my time, 5:58 p.m., it will begin to move retrograde. And the moment that those things are happening, where a planet comes to what looks like a standstill and then begins to move in the other direction, are the most wobbly of the times of that particular planet. So today is a day where some of the stranger things may happen in our conversations, in our technology, and in the way that we interact with one another. So just be aware of that. We'll go into more detail of that in just a minute. As well, today we have the sun in an opposition to Mars retrograde. Now, this bears a little bit of explanation, because typically we would say, because Mars is the faster moving planet, we would say that Mars is moving into a conjunction or an opposition with the sun, right? The sun being the stronger of the two aspects. But only when Mars is retrograde would we say that the sun has caught up to Mars. And so it'd be sun opposing Mars retrograde. So we'll have to talk about what all of that means today. And then we'll go into our Pleiadian-Earth energy of the day. So hopefully you're all doing well this morning. Let's take a look and see how everybody's bearing up. Any shocks people are experiencing, or initiations into some new way of being. I'd love to hear about that. Good morning, Elisa and Amy and Kathleen Mallory. Good to see you. J-Lo and Leslie Zuber, going to walk my dog while listening. I love multitasking. That's awesome. Tati, good morning. And J-Lo says, hello, Astro fam. Jennifer Peachy, good morning. Pauline, hello. Mimi, hello. Pauline says, Asa, could I be listed on TH card reading? Okay, Ingrid, good morning. Guten Morgen. Is that German? And JLo says, I have a little aha moment. I love it. I love aha moments. And I myself had an aha moment yesterday morning. Oh, look, I'm frozen. What in the bleep? Okay, well, I'm going back to Zoom so I don't have to see myself freeze. So I had an aha moment yesterday morning live here on air, and in that moment, or just before I went on air, and I said that I would share it with all of you today, but I needed to talk to Asa about it first. And indeed, one of the motivations I have for coming on here every morning and doing what I do, sharing astrology, human design, and the gene keys, is mostly about building community, a community of people that want to know more, that are interested in the same topics, that want to know why things are happening the way they're happening, and how can I use these energies in a positive way to affect my life. And so one of the reasons why I like doing these broadcasts on YouTube or even on Facebook is because then we can interact with one another. But the interaction only happens while we're live on air. Afterwards, you guys can reach out to me via YouTube or Facebook or anything like that, and I can interact back with you. But the whole of the community isn't interacting with each other after that. And that's the part that I felt has been missing. The missing piece, right? And so to fill that missing piece, that little void, we are going to be developing a new Facebook group specifically for the morning show. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to do anything special. If you've listened to the broadcast, if you're listening for the first time, if you've been with me for the last several years, you can participate. And the reason is that, for example, people like Ursula and Mimi, and I can name all kinds of people out there that send me interesting articles or send me interesting things like videos to watch. And then it's up to me to try to take that and share it with the group. And I'm not sure ever how good that actually is. Because various times people use, the different algorithms in Facebook and Instagram. Who knows if what I put out there actually gets seen by the people I would like to have seen it. So we're going to start a group. The group will be Living Astrology with Janet Hickox, to separate it away from the page of Living Astrology. And the group will be about all of you being able to share as a community with each other about what you're doing in the world, about your challenges, about what products you have. Now, I don't want this to be a marketplace, but if you're doing something really interesting, right? If you have something that you've run across, a video or an article, a blog that you want to share, the advantage of a group is anybody can post to the group, right? As long as you're a member of the group, you are allowed to post. Where you can't post things to my Living Astrology Facebook page, the business page, members of the community, the academy, you guys can post to one another because it's a group. So now we're going to have a group community set up for all of us to post interesting things to one another and interact with one another as a community. So we'll have some rules and regulations, right? So I don't even want to call them that. What did I call them? ASA guidelines? Guidelines, because I don't want a bunch of political stuff. I don't want conspiracy theory stuff thrown out there. But I want to have everybody be able to share interesting, positive, uplifting things that they come across. And I'm not saying that you can't post other things if that aren't so positive, because I don't want to be just one-sided. But the purpose of the community would be for support through these challenging times, and for uplifting one another, and for sharing with one another. So we'll be working on setting up that group. You will all have access to the group, and you will be able to share, for example, like Amy Energy, your videos that you do, your tarot readings for the signs, and Mimi, when you have artwork that you're working on, processes that you're going through with the art. Ursula, who I swear just finds the most interesting pieces of information. Leslie, if you do more with your community of dog cards, post something like that. I want to be able to have us all share. So I hope you guys are as excited about that as I am. It doesn't require any effort on your part except to go to that page once we have it set up, say hey, and check in with us whenever you want to, share whatever you are working on with us. Maybe you come across an awesome prayer, a webinar that's coming up, things like that. You can invite your friends to it. It's about positivity though, and I likely will have some kind of questions to have to answer in order to be a part of the group, to make sure we maintain the integrity of the group. But I'm really excited to be able to do that. So how are you guys feeling about something like that? Mimi says, great idea. Love it. Yes. Amy says, I have now been a listener for just over a year, and it's been the most special year of my life. Oh, that's so sweet, Amy. Thank you for saying that. And now we want to know more about all of you. So we are, Pauline, I'm with you there, politics or religion, but I'll tell you what, periodically I come across really positive things about politics. Like, for example, my son said to me one day, have you ever heard of Unity 2020? I'm like, no, I've not heard of that. What is that? Well, it happens to be a political movement that is positive, that is out of the box, is different, and is not held back by all of the wrangling that's going on. I would say that would be something that is okay to post. Now, as far as religion is concerned, I don't want those people that come and want to judge me and, say all you guys don't even know half of what I get in emails from religious people who, just want to tell me all about how, hated I am, or how I'm going to hell, et cetera, et cetera. And it just cracks me up that people are so judgmental. But there are other religions out there who do beautiful things. And Christian religions do beautiful things. If you have beautiful, positive, uplifting things to share, you can share it there. I don't care if it's politics. I don't care if it's religion, if it's positive, and if it shows us, if it's a way showing sort of thing. I don't want, the debacle of the debates written on that page. I don't want religious conservatism being, thrown out there on the page, because that's not what we're about. But I don't want to say none of that information can be on there of politics or religion, because there are positive things that are happening in those particular areas. So we can list those if they are positive. And J-Lo, woohoo, I would love to share some pretty sky photos. Absolutely, absolutely. Inspiring, beautifying, positivity. And here's something else. Periodically, all of you, because I know I go through these times where I'm feeling blue, or I'm feeling down, or I've, had shocks in my life. That's coming, right? More and more for all of us in the next few weeks. And what if we had a community where we could share, I'm not feeling so hot about this right now. What help me see this in a better perspective. And then people can jump in and begin to support you because of what you're feeling or what you're going through. And it's just a place to reach out to one another, right? I don't want it to be a place where we air out our differences, but we could certainly work together to create a space holding people who are having some difficulties, or a place to share your joys, new grandchildren, new children, new jobs, etc. So a community, in other words, that's what I want. That's what I've wanted for a very long time. That's what I thought I was doing here. And then there's just that one little thing, right? You guys get to hear me. I get to read what you're saying, and you guys can type to one another, but it just doesn't feel as interactive as it could be. So for right now, that's what we're going to do, is set that up. It might take a day, so it might not be ready until later today or tomorrow. Interesting that we're launching that during a Mercury retrograde, Asa, but I have Mercury retrograde in my chart, so it seems to work out for me when I do things in the opposite way. One interesting note about human design, the channel 4629, which is called the channel of discovery, is about succeeding where others fail and failing where others succeed. And I have that entire channel defined. So I just see that when I do things that are different from where everybody else is going at the moment, it somehow just works magically. And when I try to fall in line and do it like everybody else does it, it just blows up. So I'm going to go against the grain and start something in a Mercury retrograde. And if it blows up, it blows up, but I think it's going to be good. So, all right. Now let's talk about astrology, shall we? Today, the moon is in Virgo, one of my favorite placements of the moon because my own natal moon is there. I woke up this morning and realized the moon was at 5 degrees of Virgo already. That is conjunct my natal Pluto. And in a few minutes at 8 degrees, it will be at my natal moon. This is how you can look at your own chart, right? You wake up in the morning and you go, today the moon is going to be in Virgo. I have a moon in Virgo, or I have XYZ in Virgo. And so the moon is going to be triggering or timing something out for me. So know your own chart. Have your chart ready when we're talking about these things. Today, the moon will make a trine to Uranus, a smooth flow, perhaps, of some of that initiatory energy, that energy that's waking us up through shock and awe. Sextile Mercury, that's a good thing, right? Sextiles share talents and gifts. So we have a good placement there. And probably my favorite aspect of the day is the moon conjunct Venus. That makes everything that we're experiencing kind of lighter and yummier and feeling of more loving and kindness and generosity to it. So let's look a little bit first at Virgo and see what's happening. Remember, Venus is in Virgo, and that's why the moon in Virgo will conjunct Venus a little bit later this afternoon. It is the last aspect of the day. Virgo rules the physical body, everything to do with our physicality, our structure, our form, our relative health. And in the body, then health and diet and exercise and detoxifying, all of those things that we think of in terms of what we do to support the health of our body, but without getting to the hypochondria piece that's like, oh no, I'm feeling this, I must be sick. So we have to balance when we note that something's not right in our body and when we notice that everything is right in our body. So noticing what supports you in the physical being, and the physical being, your vehicle, and what doesn't, right? So being aware of that. This is a sign that also brings us to healing energy, as well as the healers that enact healing energy on us, for us, with us. Work and your job also under the moon in Virgo. It rules your coworkers, the routines of your day, right? Me, 8 o'clock in the morning, broadcasting live. Today's Tuesday. That means later this afternoon, I'm broadcasting a webinar for those in the membership. And then after that, I have readings to do, blah, 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 right? So your routine of your day based on a schedule is ruled by the moon in Virgo. And ruled by Virgo, but the moon triggering that today in Virgo. Everything to do with organization and neatness and tidiness and the energy flow. I was looking at my desk this morning and I'm thinking the energy's not flowing across my desk very well because I have piles here and there. It's the, scientific mind. What do I call it? My professor mind. Like I know where everything is on my desk and why it's there, but it doesn't feel that good to my moon in Virgo to have that kind of layout on my desk. So it's a great day to take the temperature of your home, of your desk, of your work area. Is it flowing smoothly, right? Virgo's really good at putting order to chaos. And right now my desk is a bit chaotic. So I'm going to have to do that today and just make sure that everything that needs to get done is done. Right. So that the details are handled, right? That the calendar is on the right month. And it is. I did that. I did that. Sometimes I get to the 10th or 11th of the month and I'm like, oh, shoot, I haven't even turned the page on the calendar. That's how little the Gregorian calendar really means to me anymore, because I'm so into working with the Pleiadian calendar that I know that day almost before I know what day of the week it is, which is interesting, an interesting thought, right? So placement of your workspace, placement of the furniture, of the books, whatever the tools are of your trade, are they all organized? Is it tidy? Do you have a routine that you can rely on that you use with your day? Discrimination. I'm going to change that word because it drives me crazy. Let's go to discernment, right? That's an energy of Virgo, being able to tease out what's most important, to see the connections of things, to be able to discern what is correct for you and what is not correct for you, to be able to analyze your next steps, to have a goal and a plan, and be able to critically think about what logically comes next, but also emotionally, what feels good to you to work on next, to use your focus. Now, focus may be a little bit of a difficulty today, even though we have the moon moving through Virgo, we would seem to have focus, but we have the planet that represents focus, that rules Virgo and Gemini, moving retrograde today. So we may have some moments of scattered thinking where we lose our thought train and where we have to maybe breathe to be able to get back on that right track. So even though that might be a little bit of a problem for the next couple of days, you have help getting there with the moon going through that sign of Virgo. Service. how we serve, how do we share of ourselves, of our gifts and our talents in the world, practical helpfulness. I love this one. Practical magic, conscientiousness, all a part of the Virgo experience. Now, funny, because I would not normally have thought of magic with Virgo, but I think there is a level of alchemy that happens in a sign that can see the details and has a planet that's connected to the mind, where we can also maybe notice when we're seeing too much into the details and we need to step back and see how the magic works together when we have the big picture and the smaller picture. So practical magic, practical helpfulness as a level of service, of serving, giving back, and the conscientiousness that we need in order to stay the course, right? Synthesis is another Virgo trait, perfecting, bringing order out of chaos. I think I already shared that. Processing through whatever it is that we are dealing with, processing your own stuff, right? Whatever it is that's coming up, whatever it is that's out of alignment. Because if we're honest, when we look at Virgo, it has a tendency in the negative, right? We talk about the positive expression. We also talk about the less than positive expression. And that might be blaming and judging energy, where we don't take responsibility for what the condition is that we're in or what's been happening around us. We want to blame or judge others for not being there or not doing the right things, etc. So that's one of the things we'll have to watch out for. There is anxiety and worry that comes up with the moon in Virgo. Virgo is very anxious, can get very anxious oriented, especially because they're so busy trying to perfect, to get all the details, that they can get very anxious or feel like they're not good enough. And that worry that of inadequacy or not being perfect can really create stomach issues, can create anxiety issues within us. So for the next few days, if you're feeling that kind of energy, the moon may be the trigger, right? And you are outside of the positive expression of Virgo and more into the negative. Now, in the body, Virgo rules the digestive system, and it's not just how we take in food or drink and how it moves through the stomach, through the esophagus, down into the stomach, and then into the intestines, and eventually out of the body or into the cells of the body. It's about the assimilation of what it is that we're taking in. So when our body shows us either through, I know this isn't a pretty subject, but through constipation or diarrhea, it gives us an idea of what it is we are not assimilating, what it is that we've been holding on to that we don't need to hold on to, or what it is that we don't want to look at, or what it is that is running through us, if you will, without any consciousness attached to it. So the idea of assimilation, right? The cells being able to take in the nutrients, but also on a more physical level, are we able to take in the goodness from our lives, right? From our relationships, or are we creating anxiety or tension in that part of our life? And that also shows up in our digestive system. So stomach trouble, digestion, issues around the intestines and being able to absorb water or absorb nutrients, all can point to where Virgo is in your natal chart. And whatever house it's in might show you the area of your life that has upset, that where you are not assimilating everything in the right way. Maybe over assimilating, because you could do that too. You're taking too much in and there's no more room to assimilate and it has to be let go of. Or where you're not taking it in and utilizing it properly and it gets let go of. I hope that's all understandable for everybody. I got to keep checking this ASA question. Pauline is asking, what is synthesis? The word, the prefix syn, S-Y-N, is all about bringing things together. So synthesis would be about how we synthesize, how we bring everything together, how we take separate parts and we make it a whole. Synthesis, the coming together of something, and the perfecting of something, the processing of something. So synthesis would be something that's like when we take Food, right? We take, what could we say? We could take sour cream, and we could take some chicken stock, and we can synthesize the two into a gravy, perhaps, or into a sauce, right? That's synthesizing, bringing ingredients together and making a new product, perfecting, bringing order from chaos, etc. All right, great question, Pauline. And let's take a look now at two of the other big news items for the day. Yeah, let's do that first. Mercury stations retrograde tonight, 5:58 p.m. So right now, he is literally almost, well, when I pulled the chart this morning, he was at 11 degrees, 39 minutes. He stations at 11 degrees, 40 minutes. So we were just literally a minute away from his stationing, meaning his, stopping point, if you will. So right now, then, through most of the day, we're sitting at a stopping point with Mercury. And it reminds me of yesterday's void of course moon, where we're kind of going around in circles, because there isn't any direction backwards yet. And there really isn't direction forward. There won't be for a while. So we're kind of caught up in this space of no space. So what do we do when we're in a space of no space? We take and we go into meditation. We come inward. We look at what's going on in our inner world. We think inward, right? That's what this time right now, and even maybe for the next couple of days, are all about, is about moving our thinking inward. And that means that we have to be very careful when we use words now, because if our focus is inward, things like stream of consciousness may just come out that we didn't necessarily mean to say. And, or like in my case, the words all come out jumbled or backwards. And I don't even notice that I've said it. And other people look at me like, oh, okay. So thinking, turning inward, slowing down our speech and our ability to move through information, right? Slowing down that process as well. So Mercury station in retrograde gives us the opportunity then to do more of the inward work, reassessing where we are, reviewing what's happened so far this year or since the last retrograde, which was in June. What has your mind been focused on? What has opened up for you? What have you let go of? Revisiting issues that might, Mercury, when it turns retrograde, often brings things back up for us that hadn't really come to a completion yet, or the next level of something comes into view, almost like, the dials on a telescope or something, or a microscope, where you can dial it in and get clarity around what you're seeing. So be prepared, right? New information may come up about a subject that you thought was already taken care of, or the next level of something becomes apparent. And it can be a possibility that you have more work to do, right? More inner work to do in order to use Mercury's retrograde appropriately. So reassess, review, revisit. Mercury is turning retrograde at the gate 44 in your human design chart, which is called the gate of truth. It is also called the gate of patterns in older human design texts, where it is part of the understanding circuit in your chart, where there's logic here, and logic in the gate 44 is about recognizing patterns and how they repeat themselves, and the ability then to predict a future outcome based on the patterns of the past. So it's a delicate balance between the past and the future. What is that? The now, right? Being here in the now, and not necessarily judging what's happening in the now by what we know of from the past, that just because something happened in the past doesn't really mean that it's going to repeat itself in the future. But also not looking too far down to the future, because you might miss something here in the present. So the gate 44 is called the gate of truth, because truth only lives in the now. It doesn't live in the past. It doesn't live in the future. It's what's now, right? It's in the now. All of life happens in the now. So the fear that could be triggered with Mercury retrograde is about the past repeating itself, right? It's about, oh my gosh, I see the handwriting on the wall, and oh my God, we're going to repeat the same things that have happened before. By the way, I learned an interesting piece of tidbit information that you all might like, is that pandemics begin at the gate 44 in human design. And the planets, let's see, what planet was it? It was the sun. Hold. Now I don't remember what she said in this. I was just reading this morning. So all pandemics start on the gate 44 according to traditional human design. But it doesn't tell me Mercury's in the gate 44, the gate of truth, meeting up. Interestingly, all the okay, initiated the pandemic. She goes on to talk about how that was initiated by, I think she wants to say it was Mercury that initiated the pandemic last year in November. So interesting, right? I have to definitely do some more research on that for myself, but it made me think about it and want to go exploring some more of the patterns that repeat themselves, because pandemics repeat, right? We had another huge pandemic like this back in 1918. What was activated then that's activated now? What are the similarities? And there are a lot of similarities, right? A lot of similarities between what was happening in the Spanish flu time and what's happening in the coronavirus time. And especially with false news, fake news, right? At that time, the president of the country decided that he did not want any news about this Spanish flu going through the news wires. So he had convinced the news media to put a lid on it, to not talk about it in any kind of negative terms, especially because that pandemic actually began here in the United States, in Kansas, in a military outlet. And then as the military guys moved around, they ended up in Spain and created a huge outbreak there. And it became known as the Spanish flu. It was okay if it was related to something that happened in another country, but here in the US, we didn't want it associated with any actions that we had taken here. Sound a little bit familiar? Like we're shame blaming China for it this time. So that, and then the spreading of that pandemic and how many people died because of that pandemic, the way that it spread around the world in waves, where there would be a wave and people would get sick and die, and then it would wane, and then another wave would come and more people would get sick and die, and then finally a third wave, and then it just sort of disappeared, right? So something similar here going on. So we see how these things repeat themselves based on the gate 44 truth, but also a recognition of the past, how it repeats itself, and does the expectation of the pattern and where it leads us cause us to create a future that is not necessarily the future that we could have had if we had changed something in the thought process, right? So keep an open mind about that. So right now with Mercury in retrograde, going into the retrograde, issues of truth versus falsehoods, again, up for us to debate, up for us to discern, right? Go using your own discernment. What seems true, using your own intuition. Is this truth or is it not? And then that happens to be your truth, not mine, perhaps, not everyone else's either, but your truth. Remember that the gate 44, with Mercury sitting at it for an extended period of time, by the way, is also connected to the South Node sitting now at the gate 26, which reminds us about integrity. Where is our integrity? I think sometimes we can take a look at our outer world and we can go, if this was 20 years ago, it would have been dealt with in a completely different way. The integrity has holes in it now, right? It's worn, it is dying, and we have to look at the world and create a new integrity. And that starts, unfortunately, because we've done it where we've looked outside of ourselves for integrity. Now we have to look inside of ourselves for integrity. We can't expect it to be coming at us from the outside while not maintaining it from the inside. So finding integrity from within, living your truth, walking your talk, that kind of integrity, And then we see the changes in the outer world from that. So the moon in a sextile, or the moon in a conjunction to Venus, makes it easier today for us to deal with this changing Mercury retrograde. But there's also the opposition to Uranus. Mercury's in Scorpio at 11 degrees going retrograde, and Uranus today is at 9 degrees. So it's not exact, but close enough, right? That's about a little more. It's about 1 degree in some minutes of a change, almost 2 degrees. And what we have then is the need to really be aware of what the challenges are, and how the force of Uranus engaged with this may cause us to want to speed up, to do things more impulsively, speeding up our thinking and our acting when we should actually be slowing down because of the Mercury retrograde. So we have that, push me, pull you kind of feeling, right? There's two different energies, one very powerful pull to speed things up and get it done with, and the other one to slow it down because going fast might make you miss something. So there may be more unexpectedness, more upsetting events, causing us to lose focus. You know how when something personally upsetting happens, you get some bad news, or something personally happens to you, you tend to your mind goes a bit, your focus wavers, because now you're focusing on the fear that's been generated by this shocking event. So watch for that during this period of time. Like I said, it's probably hardest during the first few days, even up to a week. And then we kind of get used to this idea of Mercury retrograde, and it doesn't happen to be as bad. And then Mercury in retrograde and the sun will come back together in a conjunction that'll signal the halfway point of the retrograde. So we'll know we got it in the bag. And then we get to the point where Mercury is at its furthest retrograde. And it changes signs even at that point back to Libra, and we get another little bump up and another little batch of issues. And then it's ready to turn direct there again for another week. Things are wobbly as we move back from the inner expression to the outer expression again. So all retrogrades, by the way, work that way. Not just Mercury, but Mercury happens more frequently, so we're more used to it. It's a great model for how that kind of a retrograde takes place. Now, lest you forget, we are still in the middle of a Mars retrograde as well. And today, the sun comes into an opposition with Mars retrograde. And again, this can only happen when Mars is retrograde, right? Where it is the sun opposing Mars rather than Mars opposing the sun. It's a matter of semantics, but it does make a difference, because the sun in this case is moving into the opposition with Mars. The sun is our personality, our ego selves, our purpose for being here. And it's moving now into a direct opposition with Mars in retrograde, which has been causing us to reimagine ourselves, to re-identify our desires, to let go of what's not working or what's no longer part of who we want to be. And then it can trigger, because the sun is highly energetic, it can trigger carelessness or impulsive action today. So it's not recommended for us to knee jerk. It is not a day to be reactive. It is a day for response, to slow things down and breathe, to all maybe become a little bit more like projectors today, where you're slowing down, right? The roll. Ego energies are way heightened during this period of time, and leading to possible conflicts or explosions between people or things like that. There is a really good high side here, though. The high side is about being direct in asking for what you want, for getting what you need, for really saying, in the face of Mercury or Mars in retrograde, that's having us reimagine ourselves, the sun coming along and you being able to say, I want that, right? That kind of clarity. And then doing what you need to do to get yourself into that position, to put yourself in the way of what it is you want. And it may be through other people. It could even be through a conversation that's frustrating, or one where it's conflict, that you realize what has made you unhappy, or what has caused you conflict or pain or a wound within you that has caused you upset. And now you're able to, through that lens, make a course correction, get yourself back in alignment, right? Move on over to the right place. So rather than striking out at another or blaming or shaming someone else for what you have been unable to do or for things not going the way you want to, process through that in your own inner self. Maybe you can do it through journaling, through meditation, through exercise, and then set a chart for a new course. It's your power, right? It's your power. So we are easily provoked during this period of time. So, and other people are easily provoked. So you might not be, because you're here and you know these transits are coming up, but other people don't. So today is my husband's birthday. And so I was in the unenviable position this morning of being able to, maybe it was enviable, I don't know, to tell him what kind of energy is up for today. And he's like, wow, way to go. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, because you're a Libra, it's probably not so bad for you. But there are people out there who are totally blinded and they strike out, and you may be in the way because you're in there and you know, but they don't necessarily know. So that's why I tell you these things. I think you guys know enough about this kind of energy now that you would understand. This is a trigger. And what do I do with a trigger? Well, I don't react. I respond by breathing, taking a moment and processing and working through it. And then I respond in whatever way is appropriate based on what I've just processed. But lots of people out there don't do that, right? Lots of people out there just blurt, and they are not very responsible. They are provokers or provocateurs, or in some way you've provoked something in them and they react. So we're watching out for that. But the best part of all of this is for you to use that to show you what clarity is on a subject maybe that you haven't had clarity on before. Like, in a way, what happened to me yesterday, it was a provocation, but it wasn't a negative provocation, but it was one that said, wait, I'm not getting everything that I had originally intended from this community. How can I make that more full? How can I make that more in alignment? And thus that group idea was born. So that's a good example of what can happen right now, is getting closer to the desire that we had, to the intention that we had. All right. So Asa, I'm not seeing any more questions come in. I see it's going to rain again. Let's take a look at comments and things that are happening over here. CR Bulls, hello. Meditate, she says. I like that. J-Lo, like baking a cake. I'm going to bake a cake today. Laura Hammer, good morning. And J-Lo, thank you very much. She says, please take a moment and hit the thumbs up button to show that you love the channel or you support the work that I'm doing. And then also subscribe if you haven't yet done that. And this is my cue to remind you all that next Tuesday on October 20th, you are all invited at 12 noon to come with your questions about your astrology, your human design, or your gene keys. And depending on the number of people that take us up on this offer, limit it to 1, maybe 2 at the most questions. And we will get through as many people as we can, answering your questions about your chart. And that is as a thank you for driving us up beyond the 500 mark for subscribers to the Living Astrology channel. I don't know what we're going to do when we get to 1,000, but I'm going to be, yay, jumping up and down. Christine Buckingham, great explanation, beautiful colors, thank you. I asked my husband this morning what color I should wear because I stood in front of my closet for, I don't know, 5 minutes in indecision. So unlike me. Usually it's like, okay, today's blue, I'm wearing that. But I couldn't make that decision. So I went into the living room and said, what's your favorite color today? And then he says yellow. And I'm like, well, I don't have anything yellow. So what's your next favorite color? Peach. Okay, I got that. So that's what I'm wearing. Karen Brackett, wow, hello, nice to see you out there. And you must be friends with Mimi because I see Mimi saying waves to Karen Brackett. Love it, love it. Then let's see what else. Rueda, it's good to see you. We haven't seen you in the last couple of days. And Kathleen, love those colors. Great. So anybody out there with questions, comments? What time do I have? 8:45. Let's go into, while I'm waiting to see if people have questions, let's go into the Pleiadian-Earth energy for the day. Today is one of the trickier days of the month, of the 13-day week, I should say. In that we've come to the number 10, the universal energy of manifesting. And it is a cautionary tale because what we're focusing our minds on, or our energies on, our emotions on, is what is being manifested. And it happens in the moment, right? There's literally very little time between what you think or what you're focused on and what can happen on a day like today. It is also the ability for us to look back over our lives since the one energy, the one planting, right? That was the energy of the one day. That was October 4th. So what might have been planted, what seeds were planted then that are needing to take shape, right? What's happened along those lines? What are you focused on? And trust me when I say the universe doesn't hear the difference between you focusing on what you want or focusing on what you don't want. Either one can be manifesting. It's up to you. So if you like what you see in the world around you about what's happening in your own personal life, hallelujah, you're focused on the right things. If you're taking a look out there and going, that's not what I want, then maybe you've been focused on the wrong things. And now you get an opportunity to check yourself, right? And start to make sure that your mind, your heart, and your soul are all in alignment with what you desire and not what you don't desire, but also holding that with as much unattachment as you can, right? Allowing the space of the universe to be able to create what it is, or to bring to you the right situations, the right people, the right opportunities that are in alignment with your desires. So don't give up heart. If you don't like what you see right now, just refocus your mind and say, that's right, I'm working on getting this, right? That's what I'm working toward. And then the universe hears that as a positive in that way and moves you more and more toward that. So that's the universal energy of the day. The day of the earth is in exploring energy, which in the Mayan calendar, that was the energy of Ben. And Ben energy was the representation of the reed, and the reed needing to have some strength and rigidity to it, but without being so rigid that, or unflexible or inflexible, I guess, that it breaks instead of bending and going with the flow. So today's a day for us to explore the edges of our stuckness, our ruts, our places where we can't seem to get past, and seeing what more is possible. It's a great question for today. What more is possible? And moving it in that direction. All right. So exploring energy takes us into new ideas, new thought processes, new ways of doing things, showing up in the world in a different way with a different idea. Ingrid is asking about a seminar today. Indeed, today is the part 2 of the profiles webinar. For those of you who are in the membership, you can meet me at the Facebook page at 12 noon this afternoon. And as well, the Zoom link is posted there if you want to join us through Zoom. And we are going to be looking at the profiles themselves and reviewing, of course, part 1 and some of the other parts that we've been through. So if you are a new member and this is the first time that you're hearing about the human design webinar, don't feel like you cannot come because you're entering into it partway through. Just realize that you might be a little bit lost at first, but I can talk to you about where the other webinars are so that you can catch up to us where we are now. So if you are still out there trying to decide if you want to become a member or not, this might be a good time to do that as we are delving deeper and deeper through human design. And in fact, we have moved this, once we finish today, we'll have moved through the 3 keys to unlocking the power of your human design. Now we begin to go deeper into the centers and into the gates and channels to kind of pick apart the body graph and see what each of those things means for us. So first we got to get through the profiles though. And if you want more information on how to join the Academy, you can go to my living-astrology.com website, and Academy is over in the top right corner. Other questions, comments, struggles, people, what are you going through right now? Oops, that is not going to get me to the people. There we go. Rueda, it's good to be back. Really missed you on the live. Happy solar return to your husband. Thank you very much. He certainly loves having a birthday. Marjorie, where can we get the Pleiadian calendar? Didn't see it referenced on your site. Also, are you still contributing to the 2021 Energy Almanac? Thank you. So interesting story, Marjorie. The Pleiadian calendar is available on the, I'll post that link for you today again. And reminder, on Friday, Pia Orlean and Cullen Baird Smith will be back with us here on my show on Friday morning to talk about some more of the calendar and answer some other questions. And I will definitely put the link up to get your 2021 calendar. It is available and it is gorgeous. Here, I got to go back to Zoom for a moment. Here you can see it looks similar, but it's thicker. It has more information in it this year, some more helping people to understand what it is all about. So I have that already. Now, the Energy Almanac for 2021, I did not contribute to. Unfortunately, the publishing deadline for that issue was happening at a time when I couldn't commit to being within that limited amount of time. However, I have talked to Tam and we are working out how to do the 2022 together. So while I say I was not the astrologer that contributed to the 2021, there is no reason for you not to get it. It is still jam-packed with great information. And I believe she told me it was coming out November 3rd. So I will let you know where you can get that as soon as I know where you can get that. And definitely, I still support the work, even if I wasn't the astrologer, right? It was just a matter of timing. I couldn't get to it. But for next year, I certainly can. And we might be doing it a little bit different next year. So I don't want to spill the beans on that, but we'll talk more about that later. So thanks. That was a great question, Marjorie. Karen Brackett, thank you for the reminder. I will keep painting today. Paint your pictures. That's a great day. It's a good day for manifesting. Wow, that was an amazing Balthazar, J-Lo. I'm not sure what that means. And you're welcome, Ingrid. And okay, does anyone know where you can get a solar return forecast? Hello? I do those. I do. You can do that through a report if you would like. And you can go to my website and purchase a solar return report. It's about a 32 to 35 page report that tells you about your solar return. Or what I always tell people is to get a reading, because then I'm looking at your chart personally and you get the report as well. So the report and me, or just the report, you have a choice, right? And likely later this week, I'll be sending that out to all the Scorpios out there, because it is your birthdays that are coming up soon. And my website again, www.living-astrology.com. Be sure you put the hyphen in there or you end up on someone else's website. The only time you get away with that is on Facebook, because apparently he didn't set up a Facebook page called Living Astrology, and I did. So, all right, that is it for me today. And CR Bowles, you will be hearing from me soon. You must have a birthday coming up, Sue, right? And J-Lo says, Pauline, it took 12 days to receive it. Can we get 2020 Energy Almanac at discount since almost over, but want to get because you contributed to it? You know, I don't know. I can ask Tam that question for you, though, because I need to reach out to her. Tam, discount on 2020? Question mark. I will ask her that for you, Pauline. All right. Janet, that was a comment I did above about my ancestor. Oh, did you find out something really cool about your ancestors? I can't see the comment, J-Lo, sorry. Maybe, private message me after the show and let me know what that was all about. In the meantime, that is it for me today. I hope you all have a great day. Tomorrow is Wednesday already. Oh my gosh. So that means we'll be looking at the 8th house in an astrology chart, what that means. And you may want to have your own chart there so you know what's on your 8th house, what sign, what planets might be there, how that works out for you. And until then, have a great day, everybody. Remember, slow it down. Don't be impulsive. Understand people might be impulsive and provoking, but you don't have to buy into that.